Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle. This is Michelle Reads YA, and today I am going to be giving you my July 2021 wrap up. I don't know what year it is. It's fine. In the month of July, I read, oh God, why am I never prepared? I read 20 books in July. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's probably my record. I probably won't ever do as well as that again. So I'm just going to go through them pretty fast. So this isn't a half an hour video, so let's get started. The first book that I read and that I almost talked about in my last wrap up, which I'll put up, is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I listened to this on audiobook, and this was the same narrator as Evelyn Hugo, so I actually liked it better because it was like a first person narration. It was much better than Evelyn Hugo. I gave this 4 stars. This is actually one of Evelyn Hugo's husband's families that the story is about, and it's being described as like shameless in Hollywood, and I think that's a pretty good description. It wasn't like as severe, but it's a good description. I really like this. I gave 4 stars. I felt like it was missing like a little bit of heart, but it was also a little depressing. I didn't realize like it would be so heavy, but like a lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, especially her newer ones with historical fiction, are like a little heavy. So I really like this. Give it 4 stars. I highly recommend the audiobook if you're looking for an audiobook. This one was a good one. The next book that I read was The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I got this for free on Kobo. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, I have been wanting to read this for a while. Why, I don't know, because I did not like it. I gave it 2 stars. As we know from the Romance Project, I don't like adult romance. This is considered new adult romance, takes place in college, and I still didn't like it. All of the men are toxic as fuck, and we're supposed to like swoon over them. Anyway, it was not for me, and I did not like it, and I don't have much else to say about it other than I didn't like it. The next book that I read and ended up DNFing, which I'm pretty sad about, is People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd. Sorry, that was difficult for me. Anyway, I ended up DNFing this because it's supposed to be a thriller mystery, and it ended up just being about social media, which, like, if I wanted to read about social media, I would read my Twitter feed. You know what I'm saying? So I did not enjoy this, and also it was like heavy on the influencer on like Instagram, and I just like don't care about that at all. So it was like starting to get into like the creepy mystery when I was like decided to DNF it. I was looking at other people's reviews, and a lot of people were like, this is too slow to be a thriller. So like I don't feel like I'm missing anything. The next book that I read was definitely a thriller, and that is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I'm on the wrong side. Please. Okay. Riley Sager. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I was really hesitant to read this because it is compared to The Haunting of Hill House, which scared the fucking shit out of me. I still get creeped out by bent neck lady. I like can't do horror like that. I don't like it. So I did not think I was going to like this. It was super creepy in the beginning, and then we get to the end, and like Riley Sager just like cannot stick a landing, man. He cannot finish a book well. So I did not like the ending of this, and I was not impressed with this at all. So I actually think 3.5 stars is like good, because the beginning was so good and I was creeped out and I was invested, and then we get to the end and I'm just like, this was horseshit. So okay, the audiobook was good though, very good. Also, why does Riley Sager write only about women? He's like the John Green of mystery thriller. Okay. The next book that I read and absolutely 100% enjoyed was Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. Sophie Gonzalez wrote Only Mostly Devastating, and she has a new book out with Cal Dietrich this year called If This Gets Out, which I loved. So when I heard there was like a little bit of controversy about this on Goodreads, someone commented and was like, wait, if she's bisexual, why did she end up with the boy? Spoiler alert. And she was like, because she's bisexual, so she ended up with a guy. Anyway, absolutely love this. This is the story of a girl who basically gives out anonymous relationship advice, and then someone finds out who she is and like blackmails her into helping him get his ex-girlfriend back, and they form a friendship, and it's really cute, and I really like this, and I just like the bisexual main character. So love this, definitely recommend it. I think Sophie Gonzalez is going to become my new like must-read YA queer author, so very excited. The next book that I read was Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. This is my first Ali book. I have her other one on my shelf, but I have not gotten to it yet. I did not like this as much as I thought I would, and I like YA romance a lot. I don't like adult romance, but YA romance, I like it. Different, I don't know. But I did not like this a lot. I think I gave it 3 stars. Let me check. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars, but in my heart, it feels like a 2-star. So let's say 2.5 stars. I just felt like these main characters just like had no communication, which I hate. I absolutely hate that. So the fact that they were like very hot and cold, the book is not long, but it felt so torturous because they just would not fucking communicate with each other. That's all I need you to do. So in my heart, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars, and I just did not love it. I love the cover though, and it got a new cover, and I wanted to buy it just because of the cover, but I was like, no, you didn't like this. The next book that I read was a reread, and that is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I recently reread Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda and realized that I only read Leah on the Offbeat once and was like, what? So I listened to it for the first time on audiobook, and it was quite good, and I still gave it 5 stars, even though if you've read it, you know there is one part that is like kind of icky that she says about someone being bisexual, and like I get it. I did not enjoy that part either, and especially reading it again, like I think I was listening to it and I actually kind of like cringed. It's not a good look. However, the heart of this book is good. So, and I'm a softie, so I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I listened to was quite good, and that is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the second in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I listened to the audiobook for the second time. I listened to the first one on audiobook too. However, the second time I listened to this audiobook, and I was like, I know this narrator, and it's the narrator of The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. So once I put that together, that was very exciting. I like this narrator a lot. It was good. It's about a missing person, which is like my jam of true crime, like disappearing people, missing people, just the disappearance of people is so fascinating to me. Like, where did they go? There's a show on Investigation Discovery that's literally only called Disappeared, and it's my favorite. It's creepy as fuck, and I love it. Anyhoozle, this was quite good. I will say that at the end it got a little ridiculous, and as far as like how ridiculous it could be that a teenager is solving like these big major crimes, it still was even more ridiculous than that. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. I am currently reading the arc of As Good as Dead, is that what it's called? The 3rd one in the series, the 3rd and last one in the series, and a lot of things are coming up from the 1st book, and I'm like, ooh, she planned this shit out. So it's good. It's a good series. I really like this. Listen to the audiobook because it like is interviews and stuff. It's really good. The next book that I read or listened to was Blackout by Diane L. Clayton. Hold on, let me get all these authors. Tiffany D. Jackson, Nick Stone. Who else? Angie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk, and Nicola Yoon. I don't love anthologies, so that's my own problem, right? I don't love anthologies. However, I really like this one and ended up giving it 3 stars. So some stories were definitely stronger than others, and like that's not surprising. Like Angie Thomas and Nicola Yoons and Tiffany D. Jackson's hers went throughout the whole thing. Those were the 3 strongest for me, which doesn't surprise me because those are like my favorite authors of all of them. So yeah, but it centers around a blackout in New York City, and it goes like all these people are going to this big party and they're trying to get there in the blackout. 3 stars. Because it was an anthology and like they just don't vibe with me, but also because some of the stories were so much stronger than the other ones. So yeah. The next book that I listened to was Jay's Gay Agenda by Jason June. I love this, and I know that people are not going to love this because there is some aspects of cheating in this book and people are gonna hate it. However, because I am soulless, I loved it because it was realistic, and that's what contemporary is. So I love Jay's Gay Agenda. Jay is the only gay kid at his very small, very conservative school, and then he gets to move to Seattle for his senior year and just like literally busts a nut. Like he cannot stop thinking about sex. He just wants to have sex with like any gay guy ever. And then he meets this like kind of shy kid who he could like have an actual relationship with, but he still like wants to get it on. Anyway, I really like this. And I think there's going to be a sequel because this says Jay's Gay Agenda #1, and I'm hoping there's a sequel because it was great. And I know people aren't going to like it, and that's fine because I will like it for myself because I thought it was great. It's good. The next book that I listened to was The Anthropocene Reviewed. That's wrong. I'm stupid. Anyway, this is by John Green. This is his non-fiction book. I listened to it and he narrates it, which is great. But basically, the whole book is him just like reviewing things. Like he talks about, not necessarily Goodreads, but he talks about Goodreads basically, where you review things. You do something and you review it. Like Google, you go somewhere and you review that. So yeah, this was great. I gave it 5 stars because he narrated it, because it was different than anything else he's ever written. It's part of a podcast, I think. I'm not super into podcasts, so I didn't know anything about this. However, there is one called Googling Strangers, which I picture it. I'm sitting on the couch, I'm listening to this, and I'm rocking my little newborn to sleep and crying because Googling Strangers was so good and made me cry. And so, you know, if I cry, I gotta give the whole book 5 stars. So that's what I did. I gave the whole book 5 stars. And if you can listen to the audiobook, he narrates it, and it's just great. The next book that I read was a reread, and that is Legend by Marie Lu. I have read Legend and Prodigy and stopped. So I'm rereading Legend and Prodigy to get to Champion so I can freaking read the whole series. So I think I'm next in line for Prodigy on audiobook. This is good. I still gave it 4 stars. I think it's not like the best dystopian I've ever read. The best dystopian I've ever read is Hunger Games and Divergent. So like this came out around the same time. She had like the timing right. It's just like not as good. But I still gave it 4 stars, and the audiobook was good, and I read this like several years ago and still remembered what happened. So that's good. That's good. The next book that I read was a book that I got out from the library, and that is This Will Be Funny Someday by Katie Henry. This is about a girl who is super shy and like closed off and boring, and she stumbles upon this comedy club and accidentally gets like pulled on stage to do comedy, and she's never done it before and she doesn't like actually suck at it. Fine. I gave this 3 stars because I did not like Isabel or whatever her name was. She sucked. She sucked. Also, her boyfriend sucked, but he's supposed to, and her parents sucked, and I guess they're supposed to, but her friends were cool. But the thing that like was she got so good so fast at stand-up comedy, and I just feel like that wasn't super realistic because the kids that she was like doing the stand-up comedy with were doing it for literal years, and she was given like all these opportunities way too fast. So like I didn't think that was super like convincing. So I gave it 3 stars. I read the whole thing, and yeah. Oh my god, the next book that I tried to read and DNF'd like 87% and I could not muster through, and that's 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. I have heard things about this book on the booktube and the book Talk. Book Talk was like, it was like one of those books you have to read. So I got Kindle Unlimited, like free for 2 months or whatever. It was like one of the main ones on there. So I was like absolutely going to read it and I could not get through it. Oh my God. I've like blocked out what this is about, but basically it's so, here's what I will tell you. It's so heteronormative. It was like queasy. Ugh. And her grandma was like, you gotta get all these boys to kiss you. And I was like, ugh. Anyway, I did not like it. So, yeah. The next book that I read and enjoyed was Divergent by Veronica Roth. I listened to the audiobook for the first time ever, and it was great. I like the audiobook a lot. I am going to continue and read Insurgent and Allegiant, because I have only read those 2 books only one time, and I think I have read Divergent. This is probably the 3rd time, so I would like to read it again. So, we shall see, but I gave this 5 stars and the audiobook is good. The next book that I listened to was Off the Record by Cameron Garrett. So this is basically like the takedown of Harry Weinstein in journalist form. I did, well, not, again, love the main character, which is why it's only getting 3 stars. I did not love this main character. She was so young and like so insecure. Like, I get being a teenager and being insecure, but like she would be insecure out of like nowhere. It was so weird. She'd be like having a normal conversation and be like, oh my God, I'm so insecure right now. And it was very confusing. I have no idea. So I wish I liked this more, but I ended up giving it 3 stars. I like the takedown of the director a lot, but anything else wasn't super like great for me. However, the next book that I listened to was great, and that's Instructions for Dancing by Nicole Yoon. I listened to this for the first time. I read the arc and cried and died and loved it. I listened to this because the audiobook narrator, Bonnie Turpin, is probably my favorite audiobook narrator, and just I had to listen to it. So even though I knew exactly what was going to happen, I still cried. So I cried again. I was folding laundry and listening to it and crying. So, what a great time. 5 stars. The next book that I listened to was Lock and Key Volume 6 by Joe Hill and Carlos Garcia. It had been so long since I had read the 5th volume because I requested it at my old library, and I guess they lost a copy because it just never made it to me. So when I picked up this one, I kind of forgot what happened, and also this was confusing. Like, it would go back between the 3 main characters back and forth, and it just like lost me. So I think I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really like the ending though, and I know that they have a season 2 for Lock and Key on Netflix, and I have no idea where it's gonna go because it is quite different from the graphic novels, which is cool. And yeah, so yeah. The next book that I listened to was Baby Teeth by Zoji Stage. This was weird, and I wish it was better. So the middle is where it lost me. This is a thriller about a 7-year-old girl who basically is nonverbal and wants to kill her mom so she can just like be with her dad. She loves her dad but hates her mom. So she is like a sociopath and wants to kill her mom. And cool concept, but the middle was just so redundant and boring, and then the ending was so abrupt. But also, is there going to be another one? I don't know. I did not like the ending. I did not like the middle, and everything else was fine. And I read the whole thing and I was invested, and then I wasn't invested, and then I got to the ending and I was like, really? So I gave 3 stars. Oh my God. Did I read this in July? Let me see. I did. Did I read this in July? No. Okay. Whew. Okay. So the last book that I read for July was Survive the Night by Riley Sager. Riley Sager, who wrote Home Before Dark. Okay. So, love this. I loved the beginning of this so fucking much. It's a great concept. It's in the 90s and she is doing a car share where she needs to get home after her best friend has been brutally murdered, and she gets in this car with a stranger and oh my god, is he the serial killer? And then the middle once again lost me, and once again Riley Sager cannot stick the landing with the ending because the ending was atrocious. It was so stupid. It was so dumb. So dumb. But the beginning, the first like 35%, I was like, holy shit. And I even told my husband, I was like, I'm listening to this book and I can't wait to listen to it again. And then I got to the ending and I was like, fuck that shit, that was stupid. So I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. Whatever. Riley Sager, can you stick a landing? Anyway. So those are all the books that I read in the month of July. That's so many books, and I know this was like the worst wrap up I've ever done, but it's already 22-minute long video, so sorry. So thanks for watching my video. See you in my next one. Bye!